What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Top 5 Podcast, a show where every week we choose a topic and give it a top 5 ranking. My name is Ron McNerney, and I'm joined here today with my buddies Zach Blanner, Colin Harding, and Matt Bush. Today's show is centered around our favorite video games and why we love them. Boys, are we ready?
We are ready. No, because given the fact that this isn't a video podcast, nobody knows who's talking. Because you just said our names, so I could very well be Splat. Matt could be Colin. Anyone. It's kind of up in the air.
You're not nearly powerful enough to be Splat.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one Splat here.
Here's the thing, Splat. They don't know that.
They do. I radiate power in my aura.
Alright, well, you know what? Next episode, I'll give everyone the chance to introduce themselves. But Zach,
it's fine. I'm Zach, by the way.
Zach, what is your number 5?
My number 5?
Yes.
Did we announce what the category was?
Yes.
We did. Okay. Well, my 5th favorite video game is Sly Cooper. I have Sly Cooper as my 5th.
Which Sly Cooper?
That's a great question. I have Sly 2.
Sly 2.
Sly Cooper. Band of Thieves.
Tell me
why. Sly's always been, our favorite game, Ron. It
Sure.
needed to be on. It needed to be in the top 5. I gave it the 5th position because, at the end of the day, it's an old game, and if we're gonna compare things like quality and,
If you're gonna be
graphics, if we're gonna be objective, Sly Cooper probably couldn't really hold a candle to a lot of these other games I have on my list, but because it has the value it has for me, it is not my number 5.
All right,
that's surprising. I thought that was the easy number 1.
Gonna be number 1. Number 1 based on just nostalgia alone, probably. Just because it's an easy game to go back to for us.
More objective. I feel like this is a very subjective, but if that's how you want to do it, then go for it.
That is how I want to do it. Thank you for telling me how to do my list, Matt.
I didn't tell you though. Don't get aggressive with me.
Matt's getting real aggressive himself.
Matt's a little defensive. Yeah, with just getting aggressive with himself.
Just don't hurt my feelings, guys.
To make this distance podcast easier, Matt's just staring at a mirror and going back and forth with himself. So, all right, Colin, what is your number 5?
All right, so my number 5 would probably have to be Overwatch.
Really?
I've dedicated a lot of time to learning a lot about Overwatch, and whenever I decided to actually dedicate time to it, I definitely started climbing. I think PC I started to hit like mid-plat once I actually decided to dedicate time to it.
Plat's an easy rank. I've been there, done that.
So once I started to dedicate time to it, I really got into just really enjoying the game. On top of all the fun lore and stuff that you can do, by watching the videos and just listening to the voice clips and stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff, so I'm kind of excited for Overwatch 2 to come out.
Yeah, Blizzard did an incredible job.
Plus, I think as soon as they released, what was that? I'm blanking on it. Blacksmithing or gamesmith, what they call it?
I think I know what you're talking about.
You can make the custom game modes and stuff.
Yeah, as soon as they released the custom game modes, the game just turned into what Halo 3 was for me back in the day, which was whenever you got bored of playing something competitive and being competitive and being an online player, you could just go and dick around with your friends.
I can respect that.
Overwatch was close for me.
Overwatch is a very good game. I honestly didn't even think of it as in my top 5 though.
6.
It would probably be an honorable mention for me.
My 10.
It's very close.
I think the best of those Forge modes type style that they did were the Genji jumping ones. The Genji jumping puzzles they did around a certain map.
Those parkour challenges.
I always loved those parkour challenges. That's my favorite part of Halo.
Whenever they started doing the Hammond ones, because people would lock it to Hammond, and because of Hammond's crazy mobility, sometimes you'd have to grab onto telephone poles instead of just being able to jump on something. And I felt that added something a difficulty to it that you couldn't really put in any other game.
Oh no, for sure, I totally agree with you. Overwatch is a very different first-person shooter to have that style of game for. Like
Oh, yeah.
a hero shooter, I should say. All right, Matt, what's your number 5?
My number 5, it's a newer game, but I think it has the platform to speak for itself. I put Star Wars Fallen Order.
Okay.
Really?
Mostly
Fallen Order.
Yet, sadly.
Really? I won't try to. I try to not spoil it too much for you. It was really like the most recent single player game that I've played, where I was like truly blown away. Like this is just incredible. Like in all aspects, in the sense of like expanding like the Star Wars lore, giving you like cool missions to do and stuff. It has like a lot of collectibles, the parkour, and just the gameplay overall is just super fun and polished.
I liked when I can have a different color lightsaber.
Yeah, that part was awesome.
Lightsaber.
I remember like way back, there was like this like bounty hunter Star Wars game that they were making that I was like super excited
Back
for,
on
and then it got
GameCube?
scrapped. Well, I don't know if it was going to be on GameCube, but like it eventually got scrapped and turned into Fallen Order.
Yeah,
So it's kind of nice to
okay.
see it all
Yeah.
come full circle and become a true masterpiece, in my opinion.
No, I like that. That's probably one of the... I think that's the only narrative Star Wars game I've played before was Fallen Order.
I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so anything that can expand on the EU in a very meaningful way, I'll always appreciate.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like
definitely
it
have
just
to say,
because...
like-
Yeah, go on.
No,
Colin.
go ahead, Ron.
I was gonna say I liked it just because I kind of went into it blind because I never played any of the old PS2 ones. I forget which one, Zach, you've talked about playing before. Everyone's played. I know they have.
There's a decent amount.
Yeah. What? I'm blanking on the name of the game, but I know you really loved it. I think they made 2 of them.
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. Yeah,
was,
I've never
the one
played
that was most
Force
like,
Unleashed.
Fallen Order.
Yeah, I've never played Force Unleashed
is
or
a
anything.
phenomenal game.
Right. But I never played those, and that was before I watched all the Star Wars movies that I played it. So I was a newbie going into it. I didn't really know like what was going on. I had an idea of the time frame that it was in, but besides that, I didn't know anything. But
I won't spoil the end for Colin.
Yeah.
But like the very last part of the last level was like peak hype.
Oh, absolutely. That was the best
was
part.
so
That's
awesome.
what made it. Yeah. But Colin, you were saying something?
I think, as somebody who hasn't played it yet, but things that I admired what they did was they created a Souls game that was like accessible. So
Yeah.
they created a game that you could play like Dark Souls if you wanted to, but in case you had, as somebody who's just a fan but doesn't play video games, maybe they bought it. They don't want to have to play a Souls game and try and understand the story while just trying to understand something like Souls. But they still brought like the complexity and like the fun that Souls games are. At least from like what I've seen. I can't necessarily verify it, but to me that's what it seems like.
I would say the mechanics, like as far as
Definitely handles
like the save
in a very
points.
Dark Souls-esque style.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say if you like are in a Dark Souls mood, I don't think I'd recommend Jedi Fallen Order.
I'm sure if you play on the harder difficulties, it feels a lot like Dark Souls.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think that's,
that
I think
could
that's like
also
if you
be.
play on, I think the difficulty was what, Jedi or something, or
Yeah, I
True
played
Jedi
on
or
like
something.
normal.
I think True Jedi would probably be like Dark Souls, but I think more what I was talking about was like you had a game where Dark Souls is super rigid on their lines, but their lines are clearly defined. And I think this one just gave you a little bit more flex on where the line was, where like if you missed a dodge in Bloodborne, like you were basically screwed. Like you probably died.
You died.
There were no lifelines in that game.
Yeah, where I feel like in the new Jedi, they kind of, or Fallen Order, I don't know what the hell I was saying, but in Fallen Order, I feel like they gave it a little bit of a leeway, and also like, I guess in a way that's kind of part of the lore, or you can say like, oh, like, he got bashed with a taser real quick, like he's not gonna die, where like in Dark Souls, if you get like a giant sword in your side, you're pretty much dead. Like Dark Souls doesn't give you much of a leniency on that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, like Dark Souls games, I never played them, but Bloodborne has just kicked my ass too many times for me to be able to go back and beat
I gave up on Bloodborne.
I had to give
I
up.
did not finish Bloodborne.
That's the only game I regret not beating, but I just can't do it to myself.
From what I've seen, I think one thing that I really love about like the Souls games and Bloodborne is, or anything like it. Like you play Lords of the Fallen or the Surge. A lot of the bosses are extremely unique, not only in their like outward appearance, but their move set and the way they do things are extremely unique.
Yeah, I really liked the combat in Fallen Order. I think that was one of my favorite parts.
Oh, yeah, the combat
being
was
able to do that. Yeah.
fantastic.
It definitely had that like difficulty kind of learning curve in it for me, at least. Whenever I started, because I haven't played any games like it anytime prior, like to playing it. It was just difficult for me in the beginning, at least. But thank you for sharing, Colin. My number 5 game of all time is Borderlands 2.
Ooh.
Borderlands 2 snatched in the number 5 spot.
I think this won't be the only time we'll talk about Borderlands 2.
I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be, and I assumed it wouldn't. But my list centers a bit around nostalgia and like how it kind of like our friend group really blossomed in Borderlands 2. So that's like part of the nostalgia and just getting me into those types of looter shooter games. I feel that Borderlands 2 is the best looter shooter that there is. Destiny is very close to it, but Borderlands 2 is just the best. And then when you tie in the comedy, what was that?
I think it was the first.
What, Borderlands being the first looter shooter?
Borderlands would have been closer to the first.
Well,
one.
I mean,
Borderlands 2.
yeah, but I think Borderlands as a series was the first genre of looter shooter.
They might have coined the term. There might be.
Yeah, they might have coined the term, but I guarantee there's probably
to the looter shooter
larger ones or they perfected it. Like, it's kind of like whenever you have things like Metroidvanias, like Metroid kind of perfected the whole thing, but there were definitely things that existed before it that were very similar.
I mean, probably
on speculation too.
Yeah.
I mean, like I have absolutely no basis on what my thing is.
Yeah, even if Borderlands isn't the first one, it is definitely the best one by far. The second game is the best one because at least like in our high school humor of everything too, just the comedy of Borderlands 2, especially with Handsome Jack, was just so funny that there were so many times where I know we were just on the floor crying of laughter. Just of how funny it was. And it was the dumbest jokes. And even now, like, when we go back and play it, it's still funny.
They're dumb, but they're still written really well, though.
The punchline always hits.
Even just not even the jokes, but, like, other things were just written so well that, like, the audio that you heard, you didn't feel like they were just throwing something in. Like, sometimes, I mean, to all the credit that you can give Red Dead Redemption, there's sometimes where all of a sudden they'll just start being like, hey, did you remember that wagon? And it's like, I don't care about this audio. Why do you have that in there? And it's like written audio. It's not like just like audio that was recorded for them to randomly throw in at random times that the speaker just chooses from random list. This was like something written into that conversation. And I feel like Borderlands definitely didn't have a whole lot of that, where they mainly kept it like everything was important, everything was funny, and everything was like kept the story moving.
Absolutely, yeah. There wasn't any like useless dialogue that I would like. At least in sometimes like in Destiny 2 or just Destiny in general. Or that's the only looter shooter I'm thinking of. But sometimes you're in a very hectic situation and someone can talk and you're like, I don't care right now. But like it's funnier like when Claptrap starts screaming or someone says something. It just has more meaning to it. Yeah. But that's the reason I chose that as my number 5. But Zach, we come back to you for your number 4.
My number 4. I have Modern Warfare 2 as my number 4. So Modern Warfare 2 is my favorite Call of Duty. It always will be. It's the first Call of Duty that I ever experienced. And as far as story, I would argue that it has the best Call of Duty campaign out of all of them. I know that is up for debate on this podcast, but I love it. And I spent hours and like it consumed a good portion of my life. I'm pretty sure my summer of like my 6th or 7th grade year, I think that is the only thing I played that entire summer. So yeah, number 4, Modern Warfare 2.
Absolutely. Like the Spec
It's a
Ops and the
goodie.
multiplayer helped make that game as good as it was. 11 years old and it still holds up. We bought the remastered version like day one, just because we had to play it.
Oh yeah, I mean it was an insta-cop for me.
Yeah, Matt, were you gonna say something?
I mean, it can be his favorite. It doesn't mean it's the best.
That's the glory of the show, Matt. Tell him why he's wrong.
I mean, it's just not Black Ops 2. I mean, that's all it really comes down to.
Oh, Matt, what are you coming out with?
No, no,
Black Ops 2 is the best one.
I don't know
Black
about
Ops
that
2.
one.
Interesting.
What are you comparing pure multiplayer or what? Like
No,
what do you?
the package deal, dude.
The whole package. What? You're telling me the campaign of Black Ops 2 is better than the campaign of Modern Warfare 2?
M-Dubs can have the campaign. That's fine. Multiplayer is better, and the zombies is infinitely better than Spec Ops. Infinitely better than Spec Ops.
that's
I feel like you can't really compare zombies with Spec Ops though, because they deliver two totally different gameplay opportunities.
I think you have to compare them in the sense that they're both extra game modes, and one is better.
I mean, if you compare them in solely that, sure, but that's really limiting their definition of what they are.
I agree with Colin.
I think it's like comparing an MMO to like a narrative-driven story. Like they're very different.
Or just like MMO to a looter shooter. Like sure, they have like similar aspects, but ultimately, if you try to say I like MMOs and Borderlands sucked, it's kind of like, well, that's not what the point was.
Yeah. So you're wrong, Matt. Get out of here.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I mean,
Matt will not be returning for next podcast. So you're actually being kicked off the show. I meant to tell you that earlier, but we wanted to see how your trial run went, and it's not going well for you so far.
I'm head up.
Right, I'll be seeing you. All right.
Oh, by the way, for the listener, you can leave a comment as to whose list you think is the best, and then everybody will give that person $5.
And why it's the best list. You have to explain why it's mine.
It's gonna be hard to explain that.
When you pick mine, you don't have to explain why. I'll just know.
I don't remember agreeing to any of this.
You just did.
We're profit sharing.
Apparently, we are in a totalitarian state.
No, we all always say
always
yes.
has been.
That's rule number 1.
And always will be.
All right.
All right. On that
note, you have a 4?
Colin.
Well, it's Colin's turn.
Yeah.
Is
Colin. Colin is number 4.
Splat. We did.
So,
you're right.
My number 4 is something that we probably will have a very short conversation about, but it was Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say Ty the Tasmanian whatever.
I remember you talking about
the
this.
Devil.
I've never seen this game before.
I've never touched it. Yeah.
Colin, explain for the viewers. Explain for the 1 out of a million viewers that have.
Oh, this was definitely a small game. I think it was honestly only on the GameCube, so you pretty much had to be a GameCube owner in order to play it.
I thought it was on Xbox too, wasn't it?
Maybe Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 3. I mean, again, I was very young at the time, so that didn't really. Yeah, they made 3. They almost made 4, but then the studio got bought out.
Well, Matt, if they made 1, if they made 2, they definitely made the first.
I guess they did have to complete the trilogy.
Yeah. So this game was about this Tasmanian tiger from Australia, and it was kind of like obviously a different universe where like all the creatures of Australia kind of lived on this Australian-like continent, and you played with a Tasmanian tiger that had elementally charged boomerangs.
Wait. Hold on. If we could just rewind real quick. He's from Australia, but he is a Tasmanian tiger.
Yes.
I'm just gonna let it roll. But I think the conflict is evident. But go ahead, continue.
It's not like where they're being portrayed is Australia, right? Like it's not like they said, "Hey, live in Australia." It's like they all have Australian accents.
Australia, isn't it?
Well, what I'm saying is like this world, like there's definitely creatures that weren't from Australia, but it was mainly like Australian creatures and so forth that were involved in the making. Like obviously they have sharks and they have things like that aren't native. I mean, not saying they're not native, but are also like from around the world.
Okay.
But for the most part, it was an Australian themed, like everybody had an Australian accent except for like a few characters and stuff. I mean, it was fun. And I think the cool part is these boomerangs had like all kinds of special elemental charges, and it was like a puzzle game in almost like a third person shooter. It was like the early Assassin's Creed in a way. Like it was like you had to fight all these enemies, but you also had to solve like the puzzle of the entire level. But it was just more like a fun game that I sunk tons of hours into because I was, 8 years old, and it was probably one of the more leading games that were on GameCube at the time, considering most games back then were very small as it is.
Right.
So it was just something that I found a lot of fun in, and me and my cousin played hours and hours and hours of it. We would play it on the hardest difficulty every like few months and stuff and try and beat it in the weekend and stuff. And it was just one of those things that just had a lot of fun.
I can respect it, just like the nostalgia of it too, and just being a childhood game. I mean, that's why Zach put Sly 2 as his number 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I can understand that
For sure.
just so the audio just so the audio listeners know, we are currently recording this podcast through Discord, just because of the whole distance thing that quarantine's making us do. We're planning on doing this in person soon, but just for this podcast, it's going to be over Discord. That's why you might hear a little bit of audio lag, a little bit, and a lot of cutting in and out. But we'll have that fixed soon. Hopefully by the time there's a couple more podcasts.
Hashtag soon.
Matt, what is your number 4 favorite game of all time?
My number 4 is probably the game that I've sunk the most hours in, just like sitting by myself, listening to music, just like playing casually, which is Sid Meier's Civilization 5.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for y'all
that almost made it into my honorables.
About Civ 5.
I love
It's the
that
most
game. It's
addicting turn-based strategy game that I've ever played, and it is fantastic. I've had so many, like, starting at 6 p.m., end at 3 a.m. Civ sessions, just like sitting by myself, like you just go, one more turn, I have this building finished. Oh, but I gotta play 2 more turns because then my troops are gonna be finished and I can go to war with this guy. And like, there's just so many different ways to play. Like, you can go like war victory or like diplomatic victory, or be the first person to get to space and win that way. There's just so many ways to play the game, and it's just a blast every time.
I mean, not a sponsor, but you can pick it up on the Switch now, on top of being able to get most of them on PC for relatively cheap if you're a PC gamer, and probably, cheap enough that it's probably worth picking up right now.
I would say
on consoles.
Anything below $20, I would immediately snatch it up. You will sink more hours into Civ 5 than you ever anticipated, and I could promise you that.
I have played Civ something once, and it was horrible. I hated every minute of it. But I am in the minority, so...
Well, sorry you had a negative experience in such a phenomenal game.
For the listeners, whenever Matt said Civ 5 as his number 4, Zach and I kind of did a little eye roll, because we're not the audience for that type of game.
It's a great game. Same, like, if you like cities and skylines, just take it to a new level, and now you have Civ 6, Civ 5, Civ 4. Like, that's what that is.
But I recently picked up the Jurassic Park Builder. That game plays a lot like Civ, so I'm having a lot of fun with that as well.
Maybe if you're a fan of Zoo Tycoon and Roller Coaster Tycoon, take it to like a whole new level where now there's like people competing against you. That's kind of what it is.
I just need another Thrillville off the rails, and that'll be my game of the year every year.
That game was the basic of
Thrillville off the rails.
Roller Coaster
quality gaming experience.
Great game. All right, boys. My number 4 on my list is Call of Duty Black Ops 1.
Your first one.
My first one. The first one. I hear Zach making villager noises, but let me explain.
Black Ops 1 is a quality pick for sure.
Black Ops 1 was my first Call of Duty. The memories I have of that game is sitting in Zach's house on that little, 12-inch TV, just
I
staring.
think it was like 14.
Out. Yeah, we were just sitting on the floor. Well, I sat on the floor, and then we played zombies co-op.
Yeah, because Zach doesn't know how to treat his guests.
I think we were both on the floor, weren't we?
Probably, I don't know.
Dude, that room was just like the storage room at the time.
Well, you're so much taller than me, even back then, that if we were sitting next to each other, you might as well have been sitting on a chair. But that game, I just had a lot of good memories with it. That was the first person shooter I ever played. That was my PS3 was basically a Call of Duty Black Ops machine. It did nothing else but play that game, and I didn't get another game until I think Zach convinced me to buy Modern Warfare 2, or someone did. But even then, I still just preferred Black Ops. The campaign and is just phenomenal. I'm probably gonna go back and play it before Cold War comes out. The multiplayer was fantastic. I think the majority of all the guns gold. I enjoyed the wager matches. I think I maxed 14 prestige. I didn't see a point getting 15th. Low-key regret not doing it. And the zombies in that game are phenomenal. Ascension being my favorite. And there's just a lot of good memories whenever PSN was down for 2 months. And then all I could do was just play offline and just do zombies. And I would just play a whole lot of solo games on Call of the Dead and Ascension. And that's usually what I remember a lot of that game, just having the good times and getting really good at Call of Duty. So that's why that's my number 4. And it's better than Modern Warfare 2. There's not as much ridiculousness going on all the time. One-man army noob tubes? Nah, you don't have to worry about that.
Dude, you just be better and you avoid it.
I was good at that.
Could have been better and avoided it. Get in better lobbies
on this one.
The game was broke. That MW2 was broken enough to where the guys who sucked could be pros, because you could just find the strat of everything.
Modern Warfare 2 is broken in a fun way, though.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Fun to play.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, no, it's fine because literally everything in that game is busted.
Yeah, I mean, there was even the part where you could get the unlimited ammo rapid fire FAL. Just running around with that, or the M21. If you wanted to run around with the M21 rapid fire, you could do it. And doing that was fun. Granted, it was dumb. You rarely got too many kills with it because it was so ridiculously rapid fire, but it was fun.
Dude, the ACR they just didn't insert recoil in the game.
ACR was the delete
Did they have
machine.
recoil on almost any of the guns? Realistically,
yeah, dude,
ACR was the best.
They did, but there was none on the ACR.
Yeah,
you were playing Halo when you loaded in with the ACR.
I will say though, nothing hits harder in any Call of Duty than when you snipe with the intervention. That shot, the sound, you can hear it. If they were to ever put it in another Call of Duty, they have to have that sound effect, and I don't think they ever will, which is very unfortunate.
I could see them throwing an intervention in.
They can put the intervention in, but they won't put that sound effect. What was that called?
I remember them teasing it because whenever they teased Terminal, what was it? Whenever the season 2 of Modern Warfare came out, they teased Terminal, but it really wasn't Terminal. And they had the intervention on one of the characters that they teased in that trailer. Whether they sent, because here's the thing: is it could be Microsoft whenever they send off things for Minecraft. Rarely does Microsoft make anything that's an advertisement for Minecraft. Usually they send it off to a production company and they tell them what they want and they interpret it how they feel like. So that could have been something where somebody just said, "Hey, I'll throw this in," but I don't know. I thought they teased it.
It could be a thing, but I think
feel like I vaguely remember something about the intervention.
I think season 2 of Call of Duty was very close to the April Fool's season, so that could have been something.
Maybe.
Because that's when Warzone dropped, was season 2. Is that maybe it could have been an April Fool's thing? I'm not too familiar with that though. But that is why Call of Duty Black Ops is my number 4. Now we round it back to Zach. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Skyrim. I have Skyrim as my number 3, mainly because I feel like if I could see all the hours I've ever sunk into Skyrim, I would be shocked. I would not be surprised if it is the game I have put the most time into. All around good game. First RPG game where you could choose dialogue and kind of dictate how the story rolls. So that was a huge blast going through that, my first time playing it. And then the DLCs even were really, really, really good. The Dawn Guard, and then being able to become a high vampire, but also like the patches they put in to make the werewolves better as well. I thought was just really solid game overall. And I'm not sure that's going to be met with any too much of a contest in this podcast, but yeah.
I don't think this is gonna be the last time where Skyrim comes up either. True.
What's Skyrim? Never heard of it. Is that other shooter?
That's like the one game where like I really want to like play Skyrim, but I've done the intro like probably like 100 times at this point.
So like the intro is honestly the worst part about the game.
It's really bad. So like I wish I could like play that game for the first time over again. So
like
I would actually like want to progress past the intro.
I've seen like quotes from like students at certain colleges that say like their professor used the beginning of Skyrim to explain what not to do during the exposition.
Is it a bad beginning?
It's terrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
You sit on a cart and they drop like 900 proper nouns, and they expect you to understand everything that's going on. It's like one of the worst expositions ever.
But when you're making like your 20th character, you can't tell me that like you don't want anything more in your life than to just skip past whenever you go through that first dungeon.
And no, you're right.
Game from that point. You know what I mean?
Sure. No,
like,
yeah.
I wish I could be more interested in that opening part than I am, because I think I would play the game a lot more.
Yeah.
What I do, like in all my Fallout, all my Elder Scrolls, I create a save that's directly after the beginning. Granted, with Skyrim,
smart.
you still have to go through the dungeon, but I skip all like the inner, like, you know, let's give you a bunch of dialogue at the beginning. Like, I just don't care anymore. I've played the game like 900 times.
You've played so
I know what I want to do. One thing that I do want to do, I saw recently, I forget what the guy's name is. I watch him a lot. He does like this game totally isn't broken.
Ninja?
No.
I think it's Dr. Disrespect.
No, it's some guy like on YouTube. He just does this game totally isn't broken, and then he like finds the next broken thing that's in the game, and he did a necromancy only game, but he showed a way where like if you go to one of the statues and then you get the crown of whatever it is that allows you to save one of your powers in the crown, you basically get like complete resurrection at any level once per day, but once you swap the crown off and put the crown back on, you get it instantly back because you like re-equipped it. And basically what this guy did is he went around and he got an army where he could kill some giants at like level 1. This is literally like he's like level 1 right now, and he killed some giants with like just an army of people, resurrected the army of giants and mammoths, and then took them and like started just like getting just bigger and more powerful stuff to fight for him, and saw how far he could get through the game just by having people fight for him.
That sounds pretty sweet.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I'll see if I can find it, Matt, and link it to you, because I really want to do it soon.
Right. So that wraps up Skyrim as Zach's number 3. Colin, what's your number 3? Where are we standing?
My number 3 is kind of a tricky one, because it could be a number 2, but I feel like I've sunk more time into well, probably equal. I don't really know. Number 3 is Borderlands 2. For mainly all the reasons that we've already discussed. It's just a wonderful game. We spent a lot of time together playing it, and that's definitely why it's on my top 5. Is usually it has like some kind of great memory between all of us, whether it's me and Zach up at 2 a.m. talking about crap, just doing stupid stuff on Borderlands, or we're just having a good time on Borderlands, like fighting bosses and stuff. It was just a lot of fun.
Borderlands 2 is definitely one of the games for us that we would just play, kill stuff mindlessly until very late. Not too much me, most like you or Zach. Play very late and just talk about whatever. Yeah. It was a very good like chill and vibe game to play whenever we got on.
Until Matt stole my infinity pistol.
That Infinity Pistol
Not
was...
steal the Infinity
I said, "Hey Matt, you can borrow this for the boss," and then never gave it back.
Yeah, that put a big tear in the
That
friendship.
Infinity Pistol is probably still on that character on my Xbox.
It probably is. The amount I actually care is a lot less than the amount that I'm going to constantly bring it up to make you feel bad.
Well, I don't feel bad because you said I could have it, but anyway.
that was an argument. That was a good time. If I had a time machine and could travel back at any point in my life, it would definitely be during that, but just as a spectator. You
mean like you were?
In the sense of just like
he doesn't remember it though.
Seeing watching above like everyone, like just seeing that, just like how everyone was just yelling at each other about that damn Infinity Pistol.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely, I sunk a lot of solo hours into it, probably more than you guys did.
Oh,
honestly,
absolutely.
like I spent way too much time. I had like my pattern to how I play to do it the fastest because I started watching speedrunners, but I didn't want to do like crazy glitches. I wanted to like keep the game as normal as possible, experience everything you can in the game as much as possible, but still like move fast and see how fast I can do it every time by doing that. And I had my ways and I had everything like planned out. Like that game I had down to a science.
Yeah, like that's how I was with Sly 2. I had that game basically down to down to like the second of playing, like, is they kept a timer on how long it takes you to beat every level, and I think I managed to get every level done with an hour or less, just because everything was so down to a science for me. And it wasn't like a speed run in the traditional sense of just like glitching through everything and teleporting and doing like all the crazy stuff that people practice hours and hours for. It was just running through.
Yeah, I definitely like whenever Borderlands 3 comes out, and I know we're not talking about it, but whenever it did come out, I spent probably 12 to 14 hours of my life creating a calculator that took all of my guns from the game, calculated which one had the best DPS, and then created my loadout for me, so that way I could constantly have the best DPS in the game. Like that's the kind of shit that I do with my Borderlands gameplay, is I min-max absolutely everything to make sure I have the best character.
Goodness, you're such a nerd. No, I respect it. I don't personally, not that I don't care enough to do that, but I'd rather just see the damage number and then the rate of fire and then go from there.
I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But I just kind of took a step further since I'm a big enthusiast in programming.
Oh, absolutely.
I've never heard you talk about programming once.
Really?
Okay.
Literally never, actually. Now that you bring that up.
Yeah, now that he's bringing it up, it does make sense. All right, Matt, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is also Borderlands 2.
What?
What?
Are me and Matt the same person? Probably not, but stay tuned.
I mean, just for all the reasons we already talked about, like Borderlands 2, like you don't get many Borderlands 2s.
You really don't.
If you're really into gaming, like there's not really that many, like there's not a whole lot of games out there that have the impact and the quality that Borderlands 2 does. Honestly. Like it just at a bar that's so hard to clear for most titles. Like most developers, they won't make a Borderlands 2. They just won't. Like the game's just basically perfect.
I feel like that game had a lot of risks. There's a lot of risks and a giant payout with it too.
Yeah.
Which is the direction that they took, and then there's just something about the art style too of the second game.
Yeah, I mean
you just won't get anywhere else.
It has so much flavor. Like there's like all the characters are so well made. The setting and like the story, it's so well written.
Yeah.
Like it's just phenomenal in all aspects.
Very, very good game. All right. So for my last 3, we're gonna go more current gen with my picks. But my number 3 is the controversial The Last of Us Part 2. Unsurprising to everyone I'm talking to.
That's
I'm sure.
interesting. I mean, that's very recent.
Yeah, it's very recent.
It's like extremely recent.
Yeah, like I can't think of a game that has hit me in so many different ways. Like I wasn't expecting it to take the amount of all the story. I wasn't expecting the way the story panned out. I really, for one, like it, and I think a lot of the hate and praise has died down a bit to where people can talk about it more. I love the game. just because of the way that the story went. It just wasn't what I was expecting. Like the first game, when I played the first game, I didn't know how it was going to be. It hit me with a surprise. And the second game, it surprised me again, even though I would have had it figured out. And even like 3 hours in, I was like, oh, I know exactly how this game's going to turn out. I was way off base with how it was. And I think the characters were written very well, personally. And I don't know, it was just an emotional ride for me. I really liked it. Just the way everything panned out, the graphics. We don't even have to talk about that because we already know it's Naughty Dog and they're gonna be fantastic. It was just a beautiful, very little bugs throughout it for me. The clickers are always gonna be a pain in the ass for me, no matter when I play the game or how good I get. But a very good game overall, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before, but like. When I think of The Last of Us Part 2 specifically, I feel like it's almost like the comparison like you could make between like a movie and a film. You know, like they're
exactly
at the end of the day they're both the same thing, but if you call something a film, it has a little bit more of a prestige and a little more context. Like you expect something a little more than just a movie you watch. You know, usually films leave you with something at the end, and I think The Last of Us Part 2 definitely leaves the player with something to kind of ponder and think about in a critical way. It almost demands critical thought after beating Last of Us, as opposed to it's something like Ghost of Tsushima, which is again a fantastic game, but after you beat it, it's very much like, oh, that was fun, that was really good. You know,
yeah,
make you think that in depthly about it.
Absolutely, because I finished it before you beat it, Zach. So like I had to sit with everything for a bit just by myself, and then when you beat it, you had to sit with it. But then we were able to have like the discussion about it, because like the first game, both games have a very ambiguous ending. But the second game, you think about so much more, and you think about everything that Ellie did in that game. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it, because as we all said, it is a very recent game. Highly recommend playing it. If you liked the first game, try it. Not everyone who loved the first game will love the second game, but I think it's very good overall, and that's as recent as it is. That's why it's in my top 5. All right, but Zach, number 2. What do you got?
So my number 2 is The Witcher 3. Wild Hunt.
Wow. So low.
The Witcher. The Witcher is a fantastic game. It is consistently a game I revisit, even though I've already platinumed it and done 2 playthroughs of it, I believe.
Somewhere around that.
2 or 3 playthroughs. Fantastic. Like you get like so much time into it and get so much out of it. The DLCs on their own are basically another game. If you wanted to come out with Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine and call it Witcher 4 and 5, I think that you very much could do that. I just think the game is just a mastercraft of a game, especially for 2015 when that came out. I don't think there was a single game that did anything like The Witcher 3 did whenever it was launched in 2015.
There were no contenders that year.
Yeah, there really weren't. But yeah, then it has. But
what about Call of Duty?
It has also the second best game, which is Gwent. Gave birth to an entirely new video game, which is kind of awesome in its own way. But yeah, The Witcher 3 is a fantastic game and had a very strong argument to be my number 1, but I will talk about why it's not once we get there.
See, the only thing I don't like about The Witcher is that white hair guy you play as whenever you just want to play Gwent. You know what I mean? Like all you want is
I'm there.
The Gwent content, you know. But I guess
exactly
you can sync. The Witcher game itself is about 40 hours, and then Gwent you can just play for another 40 hours. Like it's ridiculous.
You play the way Colin does. It takes a century, but
yeah, kids never beat it. I don't think he ever will.
It's not that I gave up on it. It's just like like I always say, there's a lot of platinums that like definitely don't even ask you to touch 15% of the content and you still get a platinum. And not saying that's exactly how Witcher's is, but if you do 100% of the game, you have easily completed the platinum a few days beforehand.
You have a tremendous amount of downtime if you can do every single thing that game has. And that's the way like the trophies work. Like those giant open world games like Skyrim, you're not seeing everything in Skyrim for the platinum. That's just how it is though.
I am somebody who, like, in Skyrim will actually go through and collect everything on one playthrough. My first Fallout 4 playthrough, the first week I literally filled every waking moment I possibly could with Fallout 4. And I explored every nook and cranny, every building, read every terminal, read every book, just kind of like how I did with Skyrim. Like, one playthrough, I dedicated so much time with just figuring out what was going on.
Is this your way of telling us that Fallout 4 is your number 2?
No.
Oh. Would you care?
I'll be honest. I did give up on Witcher 3 for the people at home. I played that game for like an hour and never finished it.
I'm taking my cosplay outfit off right now, Matt, just because you said that. Absolutely ridiculous. Colin, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is one less than Fallout 4, Fallout 3.
Shocking.
I started playing Fallout 3 whenever I was like 12. Like literally, it was one of the first games I got on Xbox 360. I've sunk way more hours than almost any game I've ever owned, except for number 1 into it. I know a lot of people have their reservations about it, even in the Fallout community, because they say New Vegas was better, and I personally just don't understand that. I mean, New Vegas just was not better. It lacked so many complexities that Fallout 3 brought you, and New Vegas like definitely just kept you on the same path no matter what you wanted to do. Like you had to do the story and you didn't really get to explore if you just wanted to. Like in many RPGs and other elements that are similar to RPGs, usually they throw you on the main path, but like you walk into a town and they're like, hey, this guy's having a hard time sleeping at night, and you go, oh, I'm confused, and then you check it out. Where Fallout New Vegas just didn't do any of that. They just kind of said, here's a path we want you to go down, and you're going to go down this path. And I think that's just because it was Obsidian's like really like first breakthrough in a game.
I was never really that big of a fan of the Fallout series. I only platinum Fallout 4 just because it was like, that was my justification for not getting it on PC. Was that I could just platinum it on the PS4. So I kind of was forced.
I understand why people like the Fallout series. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's not something for me either, personally.
I mean, if someone told me Fallout 3 was the best game ever made, I wouldn't necessarily like hold any malice against them. Like I feel like it's a very reasonable stance to have.
I mean, it's not like he's saying Fallout 4 is the best game, so.
I mean,
I definitely think that you guys just you're not a fan of having your character control what you're allowed to do.
No, I'm not a fan of the FAT system dictating what I can shoot. That's mostly what I was.
I don't know. I don't understand your issues with the accuracy in that game, but you know that's for a whole different conversation.
No.
That's for top 5 reasons.
I've never missed a shot.
If you want to play a good Fallout-like game, Outer Worlds by Obsidian is out and ready to go on PS4 and Xbox One and PC.
Personally,
and I believe Switch.
So it is on the Switch.
Everybody who's a Fallout fan will tell you New Vegas was better because that was their first one, and I don't understand that either because again, all my previous connotations towards New Vegas, but a lot of people who were fans of the Fallout series were very excited and very let down.
I'll go against the grain of Colin Harding and just play Fallout New Vegas and say it's the best one.
I mean, just for the that's fine. Alone. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. All I'm going to tell you is I have my reservations against it, and I feel like you need to have your own opinion.
Everyone knows that the best Fallouts were before they went into first-person shooter.
What?
Fallout 1 and 2 weren't first-person shooters.
Oh, no. Fallout 1 was definitely a blast lore-wise. Content-wise, you better be ready for the long haul.
All right, Matt, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Pokemon Emerald.
Oh, really?
Mostly because, well, I had to throw a Pokemon entry in the list because everyone who knows me knows that I love Pokemon.
I've never
And
heard
that's
you
just my
once
favorite
talk about
Pokemon
Showdown.
I have
Dude,
never heard you talk
I
about
love Showdown. But I mean, Pokemon, like it. What is there to say about Pokemon that hasn't been said? I mean, it's like the gaming franchise mostly. Like it's very recognizable.
Why Emerald?
Emerald was the first one I played to completion.
Okay.
I still think it's the best.
Who are the starters in Emerald? Was that Mudkip?
It's Mudkip, Torchic, and Trico.
Gotcha.
Everyone
Real ones choose
Trico.
Mudkip.
No, you picked Trico.
No, you
picked Trico if you were really about it. Well, that doesn't matter because the best one is Bulbasaur.
That's a different topic.
Matt, we're trying to have our listeners come back.
Like
we're trying to have them come back. Don't
But
say
Matt, are we talking about Tauros from Gen 1? Because like Tauros from Gen 1 was the
Gen 1 Tauros was a powerhouse.
He was the star of that game.
He's definitely one of the more powerful ones in Gen 1.
I think in Gen 1 he's considered the most powerful just because of, how the stats worked in Gen 1.
Starter, is he?
No, you catch him like once you get to the Safari Zone, you're able to get him, which is decently halfway through the game.
Remember when we said that Modern Warfare 2 is fun because everything is broken? Well, Gen 1 is not fun because nothing really works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and like unless you know that nothing works the way it's supposed to, you're not gonna have fun.
But I mean, just the gameplay of Pokemon in general.
I mean, even there's actually
like, and then there's the competitive scene of like the Nintendo sponsored events that are doubles for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like the fan tournament scene, which is singles. You can like breed or shiny hunt or just play for fun. Like keep resetting your game to try out different team combinations. Like it's just perfect, honestly.
It is a lot of fun.
It's not Emerald, but it's the same vein. I recently restarted my Omega Ruby playthrough.
Yeah.
Really wanted to play through the game again, and it just really reminded me how much I love Gen 3 in general.
Matt, I'm always, and you're gonna hear me say it for a while now, I'm gonna keep advocating Pokemon Go to you.
No.
I will bring you back up to speed because they're doing a lot of events and a lot of stuff for Pokemon Go as of like about a year ago. Like the scene has completely picked up. I would totally play with you if you want to catch up.
They had to cancel their Pokemon Go Fest. I didn't even know they're still doing those.
Yeah, dude, they're like the second most. I forget what it was last year. They were like the second or third most. Not necessarily played game because like that's not what I want to say, but like they made the most money. They were like the third most money making game, whatever that word is. I can't put it in my brain right now.
All the real ones remember when they had more active users on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Well, they just put in Mega Evolutions as of Tuesday.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and like it's not just like, hey, you just get to evolve it. You have to either get Mega Evolution Stones or you have to complete special raids to do it. So it's not just like, hey, anybody can Mega Evolve whatever they want.
Yeah, I really like the Mega Evolutions in general.
I think that when I played Pokemon, like the Sword and Shield series, kind of brought me back into the
Sword and Shield was such a great game.
It was a very good game because I hated Let's Go Pikachu. I hated that game. I couldn't beat it. Even I don't care that it's the OG region. I just don't like the capture system. Like it just takes the fun out of it for me.
It was
because I didn't have a Switch at the time it came out.
Yeah.
I think it was more those. I think it was a test run for Sword and Shield because they needed something to bridge the gap between the two games while they had enough time to produce something that could actually run on the Switch like a normal one.
And that's
so they
fine.
dropped that to test everything, and I like it for that reason because like I think one thing that was fun was the fact that after 30 catches of the same Pokemon, you were almost guaranteed to get it shiny, which was fun for like people who were like nostalgic towards it. They're like, oh cool, now I can get everything shiny.
Yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't in my taste personally. I just didn't care too much for it just because of that.
But I have given it a shot. That's about it.
Yeah, I didn't beat it. I won't go back and beat it. I'll probably sell it to GameStop for some in-store credit before they go out of business.
I have finished one Pokemon game in my lifetime.
Wow. So I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one did you finish?
X was the only one I've ever finished. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I always have to see.
You know what? Maybe actually, There's a chance I finished Emerald on the emulator on my phone, but I honestly am not confident enough to say that that's true.
Shout out to phone emulators.
I just started replaying all of them on emulators, and right now I'm on second gen. And my goal for second gen right now is I want to start with a shiny starter, and since I'm on an emulator, it makes it a million times faster. But I will get that shiny starter.
No, you won't.
So you're gonna get the shiny Totodile because that's the only one you're.
No, he's gonna get the shiny Cyndaquil.
I would like to get the shiny Totodile, and that is exactly what I'm going for.
No, you actually can only pick Totodile.
You really can. You can only pick Totodile. He's fantastic.
Best, but that's just
there's a lot. It's in the Pokemon bylaws. You can look it up.
I won't look it up because I don't want to. I don't like this blasphemy that is being shot at my boy Cindy. So
Turtwig is the best. So
he's just not Totodile.
Cyndaquil's great, but Totodile is better.
What are your thoughts on Turtwig?
No.
Turtwig is fine.
Turtwig. All the Gen 4 ones I like.
Yeah. Gen 4 was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite ones. Platinum was easily like top 3 Pokemon games.
Diamond was the first Pokemon game that was bought for me, and then Soul Silver was the first one I finished though, and then I went back and beat Diamond later, and then traded them between the games. Yeah, Soul Silver was my
first
favorite
one.
Of all
was
of them,
Pokemon Red and Pokemon Yellow on my Game Boy Color.
Yeah, no, never had the Game Boy Color, never any of that stuff. Just Nintendo DS, then just went from there.
Game Boy Advanced.
I did have a Game Boy Advance. I just never played it. I don't even know how it came into my life. It was just kind of there. All right, but to transition, my number 2 game is God of War 2018. That is my number 2 pick. I think I've beaten that game 3 or 4 times. I started a 4th or 5th, but I never finished it. But that game, I think, was just the best game I've played on this current console gen, because I've played the first God of War, and I liked it, but I went to go play the second one, and I couldn't keep doing it. I don't know if it was because it was dated or I wasn't too into the game itself. But when I bought this one, it was mostly because the trailers looked really cool, and a lot of people were saying very good things about it. So I was like, you know what, I'll buy it. It was the best purchase I made. Second best purchase I've made this gen in terms of video games. Just the story itself, a lot of people knock it of being like Last of Us Part 1, like with having Atreus and Ellie like kind of being the similar characters, but once you play it you realize that's just not the way the game is, because it's completely different. It takes on a whole dynamic, and Norse mythology is really cool. I'm about to buy a book on Norse mythology just because of that game itself.
Hey, I can send you all the stuff from my fairy tales class, because we talk about Norse mythology quite a bit, actually.
Oh goodness, a fairy. Anything that's like
I can actually just we could just have a quick little crossover episode here, Ron, because my number 1
Wait, a crossover episode
actually is God of War. So
wow, didn't see that coming. Well, yeah, all right, then you and I could talk
God
about
of War from back in like 2007 though, right?
No, the new one, the new God of War, 2017, 2018. Yeah, so unlike Ron, I actually went through and I played every single God of War and have platinumed every single God of War aside from Ascension. I'm still working on that. I'm gonna do that after I beat Persona, but I love God of War as a series as a whole. I think it's I really love Kratos as a character, even though it's kind of a meme at this point that he is just, the Ares.
Boy.
Right. So I think I love God of War because of everything they did with the game and the way they kind of rebuilt and revitalized the franchise without destroying any of their previous content. The new God of War is not like any of the old ones. It takes a much more personal look at Kratos. It definitely develops him as a character more, and you can really see him struggling with the sins of his past and who he was, and trying to be better, not only for himself but for his son that he is now having to raise as a single parent. I think the storytelling is just so strong, and I think could potentially be probably the best PlayStation exclusive that has come out this generation.
Probably ever, for being honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a strong argument for Last of Us, like we talked about, but again, you know, I made the comparison of the films and the movies. I think in this scenario, God of War is definitely a movie, and Last of Us is a film.
I feel like, yeah, go on.
But yeah, so everything with God of War, I think it's a phenomenal game. It's something they embedded this open world that it wasn't an open world, much like Uncharted 4. Like, it's not open world to the point that it's something like Skyrim, but it gives you the freedom to like kind of explore things and find things you might miss if you're just following like the path of the story. So yeah, it's just overall fantastic game.
Yeah, I feel like with God of War, if whenever you're fighting Baldur in the beginning of the game, if the game hasn't sold you by the end of that fight, I just don't think the game is for you then, because that is the best part of that entire game. Because like we were talking about the beginning of Skyrim, how like kind of annoying the beginning of Skyrim is. Granted, the fight with Baldur is a little bit into the story of God of War, but that hooks you so hard because you actually see like the actual power of Kratos, and like just if you've heard about him from the other games, you see it in this game, and it's so good. I don't think there's anything else that can hold a candle to that.
I think the other thing that is really strong about God of War is how you don't really need to play the previous games. You don't need to know what Kratos went through outside of that he killed all the Olympians. That's it. I think it does a really strong way of like peppering in everything you need to know about the game without having like this big dedication to like 5 or 6 games of content. I think it does a really good job of like, if you never played God of War, so it is a really good jumping in point. Obviously I'd highly recommend going back and playing the other ones, but if you I think it does a really good job, because it's not easy to make the 7th or 8th installment of a series palatable without playing the other ones. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely respect the positioning on your list, that being your number 1. But Colin, your number 1 game of all time.
My number 1 game of all time for me personally is Destiny 1.
Destiny 1. All right, before you close the podcast, everyone, hear him out.
Take a stance, and then you're allowed to type why he's wrong.
While I understand everybody's reservation about the game, trust me, I was there. I played through the game as a warlock at the beginning. I was super hyped to do it.
We all played through it first. We all experienced the disaster that was launched Destiny 1.
And I remember, because these 3 were ahead of me, even though this was the game that I was looking forward to, but they all decided to play without me.
To be fair, squads were only 3 people. It kind of made it difficult.
No, I'm not holding anything against you. Just saying. So I ended up playing with Tyler, and we kind of ran through it to catch up to you guys, and we totally missed out on so many things. And I think that really turned me off, and I just kind of gave up on it. And then I remember the Crota DLC came out, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to give it another try. And I gave it another try, and I restarted as a Titan, which is the superior.
Sure.
Titan gang, absolutely.
That's how that works.
Zach, the Warlock will never be the superior. It's either Titan or Hunter. Hunter is PvP. Titan is 100% PvE.
You picked the Hunter.
All the Hunters are just crying in the corner right now of their less superior choice.
Wasn't the Warlock was the best one for Destiny 2, if I'm not
Warlock
mistaken.
was fun for Destiny 2. I think the best one for Destiny 2 was just all around the Hunter. It was boring gameplay if you played as the Hunter, but if you really wanted to actually beat things, you needed at least 2 Hunters on your team.
Or you could just have a whole stack of Warlocks and just be fine. But,
I mean, you could say that, but that's actually not true.
Hey, that Titan Shield has helped us out so many times for it to not be worth it.
Titan Shield is too strong.
Titan Shield was great.
It was all about the Blade Dancer Hunter, though. That was the shit.
But Destiny 1, I sunk after playing Crota. I'm gonna say the Destiny. The Hive is one of my favorites. I don't want to say villains, but my favorite
factions.
Yeah, they're my absolute favorite faction of any video game I've ever played. They have by far, in my opinion, the coolest background. They have the coolest history. They were just so fun to play against after you knew the history. So for me, again, I'm somebody who's a completionist. I'm somebody who's a min-maxer. I learn absolutely everything about the game. I was tier 15 in Destiny the moment we figured out that you could have tier 15. I grinded like hell for it and I got it.
What is tier 15? Is that Trials of Osiris, or what is that?
Tier 15 was, remember how you have discipline, strength, and intellect?
Oh, yeah,
and that determine whether you can have faster recharges on any of your abilities.
Or agility and stuff like that.
I basically had almost max. And then I had max. I was at complete max capacity. I was playing as a Sunbreaker. I was able to get my grenade every 3 seconds, and PvP was a blast for me because I was a total trash bag in PvP. I just throw my grenades around corners every time I went around a corner, and I would win every fight that I got into. I was absolutely insane whenever I played that game. I made sure my character was best. I even dedicated most of my senior year to it. If you're not a fan of the gameplay and, maybe you don't want to go back through it, I at least recommend checking out some of the lore episodes that you can find online from some very popular YouTubers like Bife and so forth, because the lore alone on the Hive, you'll feel like you're reading a book, or listening to a book, because you'd be listening to Bife, especially Bife. His voice is wonderful.
My name is Bife.
It's my name is Bife. Is his full handle.
BYF, I believe, for Bife.
BYF, correct. He genuinely cares about the lore, and he doesn't just care about the lore in Destiny. If it's some kind of lore-based game, he's making lore about it, like Warframe, Anthem, which wasn't very well received and he doesn't really do anymore because it wasn't very well received. And Destiny. I really haven't kept up on too much of what he's doing lately. Mainly just Destiny lore, honestly. But you'll feel like you're listening to a very complex novel whenever you listen to him, because I think he has 150 lore episodes or something like that for Destiny 1 alone. So there's so much content, and each one is at least 15 minutes, and you got so much lore packed into that game. And once I learned that lore, I played that game like crazy, because it just felt like it was a new fantasy realm to play in instead of just a shooter.
Yeah.
And great shooting mechanics, unlike
I don't think anybody can deny Destiny that they had fantastic shooting mechanics.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably the best.
Yeah, Destiny and Call of Duty have the best shooting mechanics of any first-person shooter I've ever played.
Yeah, personally. I don't think anybody's ever going to beat Bungie or Infinity Ward in their shooting mechanics.
I'd have to agree. Matt, number 1, what is it? Let me hear it.
My number 1 is
stupid.
The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim.
Oh, the sleeper.
For all the reasons that we already talked about. Plus, like, I love the ability of, like, every time you want to play Skyrim, you can make a race, like, start building your class and set up, like, how you want to play the game, and then go off and do quests that you've never done before. Like, literally every playthrough, there's, like, some new quest somewhere that, like, you just haven't seen before, and you could, like, stumble upon it, and all of a sudden you're on this cool, like, side storyline quest whenever you're 40 hours into the game and you haven't even touched the main storyline, because who does that, honestly, in Skyrim? No one's ever beaten the main story. No one knows it exists because all the other content's so much fun. I think the only reason that I don't play Skyrim as much as I want to is just getting past the first, like, 2 or 3 hours of the game. That part is kind of rough, but once you get past that, it's nothing short of a masterpiece.
Yeah, the journey to River Run. Well, actually, the journey to the tower with the dragon is the longest journey of every video game.
After you get past the first dungeon, whenever you get your first word of power, that's when the game, like, actually kind of starts.
Yeah, that's the true beginning of the game.
It's, like, kind of brutal if you're a returning player and you're really trying to, like, play the game. Like, my current playthrough that I'm, like, on and off with is I'm a destruction magic using vampire. I've been having a lot of fun with that because after the first DLC, the vamps get a lot of fun stuff to play with, especially when you get the transformation.
Absolutely.
But there's just so many different, like, ways to build your character, even, like, flavorfully. Like, you can build, like, a really, like, cool and interesting character in terms of just, like, raw flavor, even if, like, you're not really trying to win, you're just trying to, like, roleplay.
And the fact that Serena is the best follower. That's her name, right?
Shadowmere has probably killed more dragons than any other character in any media ever.
If you're not going after what's the guy in River Run that's the marksman?
Oh, the archer dude you get at the beginning?
Yeah, if you're not going after him, Fendal. If you don't go after him immediately, just to get, like, that, like, extra crap that you can do with him at the beginning, you're just playing the game wrong.
Get to, like, some, like, stupid level of archery really quick.
It's level 70 right off the bat.
Exploit or whatever.
Yeah.
Literally, I think it's as long as you have, like, 3,000 gold, you can get up to level 70 right as soon as you befriend him.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. If you want a game that's, like, pretty balanced, I would not recommend Skyrim. It's very easy to exploit.
Everything. The entire game is an exploit. Like, I think that was the point of the game, was to figure out how many ways you could exploit the game.
But it's just so fun. And if you're listening to this, odds are you've played Skyrim and you love Skyrim.
You love Skyrim.
I don't think anyone's played Skyrim and is like, nah, this ain't it. Everyone loves Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there, but probably not very many.
It's a very silent minority of people.
For every one person that loves Skyrim, there's 100,000, or for every one person that hates it, there's 100,000 downvoting their comments.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're downloading Skyrim on their PNC Bank machine that they have sitting around in their house because they decided to drop it on their ATM.
It's easy to get microtransactions that way, you know, if it's connected to your
It probably is easier.
Yeah.
I think it's coming out to my Keurig later this fall.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
I'm hoping it comes to my Samsung fridge soon, so we're hoping. Anyway, the last one for me, my number one game, to no surprise to anyone in this call, is The Witcher 3. For reasons we already discussed, this game was the first game I bought on my quote-unquote gaming PC back in high school, in Alienware Alpha, basically a dead platform at this point. And I had it, I loaded up the Steam store, and I was like, you know what, I have to buy a game to justify this purchase my mom made, because I didn't buy it, I was in high school, and that was like $500. So I had to justify it. And I watched one trailer of The Witcher, and I was like, you know what, I'll do it, it's fine. I'm pretty sure Steam refunds were a thing back then, so in my mind I was probably like, you know, if I don't like it within 2 hours, I'll just return it, get the money back.
Are they no longer a thing?
No, they're still a thing.
I think he was just saying they were relatively new at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, because Steam refunds, like, changed Steam in general for people buying games and trying them. But I bought Witcher, and I was like, $60, like, all right, whatever, I'll do it, I don't care. I bought it, best decision I ever made. From like an hour in, I was already hooked, and I've never even heard of the books, and I didn't feel pressured or unknowledgeable playing it because I didn't play the first two. I went in completely blind, and I didn't even hear about the game before. I just saw the trailer and then bought it, and it was just the game that I sunk so many hours into, and to the point where I think we would want to play something on our PS4, like Call of Duty or something, and I would just be on my PC just talking to you guys, but just playing Witcher. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. And I think I've averaged a playthrough a year at this point. And with how expansive that game is, that's a lot of time, especially with the fantastic DLC that they put into the game. But I think I've done like 4 or 5 playthroughs at this point. I platinumed the original version. The complete edition has its own separate trophy list that you can go back and platinum. I haven't done it. I've already done it once, and time's a little bit of an issue in this life of mine right now, so I haven't had the need to go back to do it. I'll probably do it one day. But fantastic game. If you've never played it, if you like open world games, always recommend that game. It holds up. Even like it's 5 years. I think that's when you can say a game holds up, around that time frame. It holds up, and just because of that game and the fantastic work CD Projekt Red put in, I'm extremely excited for Cyberpunk 2077, which is probably going to be my game of the year this year, and I haven't even played the game because I just know they're going to do a great job.
I'm just so excited for it because it's like that futuristic role-playing game that I think we all really want,
right?
And that nobody's truly been able to deliver on. I'm just really hoping that they keep everything that my expectations have, which I don't have high expectations because I don't want them to break them. I want them to meet them and exceed them.
Right. I think it's just really cool that, like, however you build your character, it's a different story. You can have 3 different stories in the game. Like, you could choose from 1 to 3, and then that gives you a lot of replay value with Cyberpunk.
Plus, I'm assuming all the side quests on top of that give you many different stories that you can attack.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially with the decisions and everything. It just you could play that game 100 times and get something new out of it every time.
Yeah. And to the listeners, I am not one of the people who, like, if I play an open world game, it's story first. That's usually what I do first. The only reason I did the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim before I beat the game was because these guys would not stop talking about it. So I was like, all right, well, I have to do it. The Witcher, I just did story only. For the most part, I did some side missions. I definitely did Witcher contracts. But when you beat it, it tells you not where you messed up, but just the outcome of your decisions, like a lot of those choice games do. And I beat it, and I was like, I really wanted to see what the Radovid side of the game is about. So I went back and I did that, and I went to get the best possible ending, not looking stuff up, just playing it how I would. And luckily for me, I didn't mess up in any of the decisions I made throughout it. But fantastic game. Always recommend. So this is the point. Yeah, go on.
So much fun whenever I played it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think I put in 40 plus hours into the first continent that you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Which sounds completely unreasonable to almost any reasonable gamer out there, but for people like me, or even realistically, I guess Ron probably put in roughly the same amount of time at this point, but my first playthrough, which I'm still on, I put 40 hours worth of playtime into the first continent.
It's a white orchard, like that first area.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it, so I'm just calling it continent.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. The whole thing's a continent.
Wait, you put 40 hours into White Orchard?
Yes. There is so much content there, Zach, that I've put 40 hours into.
Did you beat the Griffin?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, all right. So if you beat the Griffin, then you've been to like the rest of the continent. Then like you probably explored.
I've gone places, but I went back there to completely finish off that area. There's so much content in that game. There's so many hidden things that are just little, like, I'm talking little things that are just fun to experience in that game.
Yeah. If there's an award for Game of the Generation, I absolutely throw that top of my list. But now we are at the point of the show where we are going to quickly go over our honorable mentions. So we don't have to talk too much in detail like we did with our normal category. I'm not sure if you guys prepared your any honorable mentions.
I did.
Zach, did you prepare some?
I got a few, yeah.
All right, yeah. Do you want to spill them out real quick?
Yeah, sure. So my honorable mentions, they're. I mean, I'm sure I'd probably have better ones, but these are the ones that popped in my head whenever I was making this list. I have What Remains of Edith Finch.
Okay.
Is a fantastic game. It's kind of a walking sim type of story, but you go through as Eden or this girl named Edith who has these ancestors in this mansion-like house, and every room in the house has some crazy type of design or aesthetic embodying the personality of that relative, and then it's like a mystery too. Like you learn, it like has a bunch of flashbacks and all kinds of things. It's a really good game. Highly recommend it. Stories, Path of Destiny. Loved that game. There's like 24 different endings. It's kind of like a Groundhog Day type. No, not really. Basically there's like 4 missions, and then like you have choices in it, and you can rewind your decisions and basically replay the game. Like you can replay the game probably like 10 times in the course of an hour and just see like what choices lead you where. And then my final one, which was really hard, I was really debating putting this on my list, is Outer Wilds. I loved my time with that game. I loved how at first it was very annoying how unguided it was, but it's very much like you drops you into the game. You have like, maybe, I don't even know if you want to call it a tutorial section. You get this quick little tutorial section, and then that's it. It's all on you. You fly around this galaxy discovering new information, and inevitably try to discover unfold this big mystery, and figure out why what is happening to you and why you remember it. That's all I'm going to say, just because I think the reason is it's pretty satisfying, like to kind of piece all that stuff together. So less is more with that, but fantastic game.
All right, I can agree.
That's it.
I agree with stories. I want to go back and continue playing that game. But I didn't really. Outer Wilds didn't grip me as much. The ship controls honestly really messed me up with enjoying that game.
Ship controls are really, yeah, they suck.
Really bad.
I think
really
that's like part of its quirkiness, I think.
I'm sure it is. It just wasn't a game I could get too involved with. But yeah. Colin, honorable mentions.
I would like to start off with the fact that probably every single video game in my library is an honorable mention. I rarely think I have a game that I don't like, but things that definitely came to mind, my top 3 honorable mentions is Call of Duty World at War Zombies, because that started my deep dive into zombie lore. That started my deep dive into really appreciating zombies. I'm pretty sure it started everybody's deep dive into it, but Zombies is one of my favorite storylines that I've played in a long time. Halo 3 is another honorable mention. I'm sure everybody in the world could agree that Halo 3 is a fantastic game.
I can't disagree.
I think
I never played it personally.
My favorite thing was just the custom games. I mean, the multiplayer was phenomenal, don't get me wrong. That was one of the first games that my dad decided to bother playing, and literally sunk his entire time at home into playing Halo 3. Like, there were points in times where me and him were having competitions to see who would be at the top of the leaderboards, because we would constantly compete. Like, you know, I'd get 1 kill and now I'll be at the top of the leaderboards, he'll get 1 kill and then he'll be at the top of the leaderboards, and we just keep moving through to see who can finally hit the top before we finish the game. So that game has a lot of memories just from custom games and multiplayer. Another honorable mention, which was a great game back on the GameCube, was James Bond, Everything or Nothing. Fantastic, just everything going on in that game back for GameCube standards and like that generation of video games. One of my favorites. I think just going through a list, I would say like Mario Kart Double Dash, SSX Tricky, Minecraft, BioShock. BioShock's fantastic. If you haven't played it, play BioShock. Firewatch, A Story About My Uncle. If you like Portal, it's like very similar gameplay. Need for Speed Underground, Super Monkey Ball to Ultimate Spider-Man, Lego Star Wars Saga. So many of these things are... Oh, Assassin's Creed 4. If you haven't played Assassin's Creed 4, probably one of the best Assassin's Creeds you'll ever play.
Colin's just looking at a giant pile of games in the corner of his room right now.
Yeah, I have.
Listing his entire gaming library.
I've recently bought a bunch of games on sale, and I have 62 games that I still need to play. Sadly, I have things and priorities to do, but I will eventually break through that list of 62. I plan on live streaming it and making a series out of it on YouTube just for fun. But yeah, I've played hundreds of games. I think my GameCube library was literally 120 games deep.
Dang, definitely respect it. Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a good series for you, just going through and playing all those games. Matt, honorable mentions.
I just had one game I wanted to talk about.
Just one game? Yeah. What is it? Is it
Batman Arkham City?
Okay.
Fantastic game.
That's a good shout out.
Or specifically, just the Rocksteady Batman series in general, because they're all just phenomenal. The best superhero games that money can buy. Odds are, if you're listening to this, you've played them, and you think they're great.
Arkham series is fantastic. I think Arkham Asylum is my favorite.
The whole Arkham series, it's so well made. The amount of games that have just ripped off the combat from the Arkham series. Yeah. It's probably too long to listen to this podcast.
What are you talking about? Marvel's Spider-Man is nothing like the Batman.
It's nothing like
Batman. Absolutely nothing like it.
It's just perfect. It's just
I think one thing that was really great about Arkham City was the fact that they introduced open world in a good way.
Yeah, the open world was so good.
Where many games, they just say, hey, I'm going to throw open world in there, and it doesn't work well because they still throw you on a linear path, or it's just a bunch of barren nothingness. So I think Arkham City really filled and populated the world to make you feel like there was danger and there was, I don't know, some kind of just there was life in the city, although it wasn't necessarily friendly.
I had to shout out the Arkham series.
Absolutely. I respect it. The Arkham series is very good. I kind of forgot about it when I was making this list, though. But it would be an honorable mention for me, though. So I agree with it. To wrap up, my honorable mentions are Skyrim, of course. That was a hard one for me to choose. I wasn't sure. When I go back and play Skyrim now, it's hard for me just because the engine is just so bad. But just the memories and the hours I put into the game outshine like those issues, I feel. My next one is Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. Sly 3 is my favorite of all the Sly Cooper games, mostly just because I think the story and the characters really adapted in the third game compared to the second and the first one. We won't talk about Sly 4. And my last one is Rocket League as an honorable mention.
That's an interesting one.
Rocket League is such a good game. Yeah,
so much fun.
Because you guys were all off on your adventures when that game came out on PS Plus, and I was just by myself, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm a download it. I'm gonna try it, and that game did not disappoint me at all, and I just got so good at it on console. To the point where it got annoying. I know we played private matches that if I wasn't on your team, it was annoying. But yeah, great game.
Soft flex.
Great. 100% soft flex, and I don't care. I'm not that great at the Fall Guys version of it, but we're getting there. So, but Rocket League, fantastic
Fall Guys
game.
is 50% luck and 50% server connection.
Absolutely. But also, it is also the first game I think I took more seriously, competitive-wise. Like I would go into like their competitive modes, that game and Overwatch for me, but I would go into the competitive sections of Rocket League, and I would watch a bit of the esports tournaments and everything with it too. It really got me into that side of everything. And even though I was super into Call of Duty, Call of Duty pro leagues, like the esports and everything, CDL, I didn't really watch it too much till college, where Rocket League kind of hit me first with everything.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that was another thing of why I liked Overwatch a lot more was even though Call of Duty had been doing their whole esports thing, I truly do think that, like, Overwatch kind of popularized the idea of esports because Call of Duty was doing it, but, like, honestly, I did not care about it. All of a sudden, Overwatch started doing it, and I was like, I don't know, this seems like it's interesting and fun, and it was a lot more fun than some of the Call of Duty matches I've watched.
The Overwatch esports reshaped Call of Duty
for esports. Like, Overwatch was built with esports in mind, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole point of it, was like to be in esports.
The way it plays as a game.
Absolutely. I would definitely say so. That game, we had a lot of...
If you care about what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. We would sit down and watch them all together. Like, it was hours long of just watching a competitive Overwatch.
I know I'm probably like one of the only ones in the group, but I still watch it. It's still a lot of fun. Yeah. I think if that's more than anything is it's fun. Even if you're not a big esports fan or, you know, you're just not into sports in general, I think it's still a lot of fun if you're into gaming. You'll really appreciate it. Call of Duty and, like, Rainbow Six Siege, their competitive scenes are really cool, but you kind of have to be into the game and understand, like, serious plays and understand things like commitment to corners and so forth. Kind of like CSGO, where Overwatch, I think anybody can watch it and kind of get an idea of what's going on.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode of Top 5. Thank you all so much for listening. Feel free to share it to all your friends. Word of mouth goes a long way. Maybe we'll buy Twitter ads. Who knows? Doubt it. We'll see. But thank you all for watching. Hit the bells. Follow us on twitch.tv. My Twitch name is Mr. Dr. D. I'm probably going to go live every Saturday. I think that's my schedule right now. Not a good schedule, but it'll adapt. But yeah,
if you guys like appreciate what we're doing and you just kind of want to help us out, comments on any platform really go a far way because that proves interaction. So if you have nothing to comment, just comment your favorite video game down below so we can one, get some interaction, and two, get a better understanding of who our community is.
Absolutely.
Whose list was the best, and why was it mine?
Absolutely. Leave it in the comment section below, and we'll be making social media platforms too, so feel free to message us, and we'll promote that on the following podcast or anything too. But also, feel free to leave suggestions. As Colin said, like what topics do you think we should choose also? You know, maybe we'll adapt to it. Maybe we'll make a list. Maybe something we didn't even think of. It's always appreciated. But any final words for the audience?
Be that guy who picks up the ammo in the munitions box in multiplayer just to give that guy 25 XP.
Honestly, yeah, those are the best people, especially on double XP weekend. But
yeah,
thank you all for listening. We all appreciate it. This has been Top 5, and we'll see you next time.